So you're even though it says you are, you're not yet.
We're all here. Yeah.
And there is a new agenda out.
Yeah, some additions. Hello, Evie. Welcome.
Yeah, I see one of our looking for our guests that are coming in tonight.
Okay.
Oh, we have Donna Thomas with us.
She's on the phone.
Yes, I know. Good on Donna.
Donna, I changed your phone number to show your name, and I hope that's okay, because Lisa gave me the heads up that she would be phoning in, and I'm pleased to see it worked. Even though she can't respond and we can't hear her, that's not really fair, is it? I'm looking for Donna Schmerler to see if here she is. I'm going to move Donna Schmerler over right away, Mayor Beamish, as soon as you call the meeting to order.
Are we live now?
You are live now, yes.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regular council meeting of Town of Gibsons for November 16, 2021. And we acknowledge tonight that we're meeting on the unceded territory of the Squamish Nation. We have a full agenda tonight, packed with proclamations, delegations, resolutions, and all sorts of fun ahead. So we'll look forward to that. It is 8:02, and I'd like to call the meeting to order and have a request for adoption of the agenda. Thank you, Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig, all in favor? Thank you very much. And just to point out to those of you who have tuned in, this is a updated agenda. If you had one previously, there were some additions from today and some additional correspondence that came in. Ask for an adoption of the minutes of November 2, 2021. Councillor Kroll, Councillor Lumley, all in favor of adoption? Thank you. At this time, I'll ask for a resolution also to receive all reports, correspondence, and bylaws. Councillor Ladwig, Councillor Kroll, all in favor? Thank you very much. Business arising from the minutes of November 2, there's a item there under 4. Was that you'll recall that the delegation on lot 1313 requested a letter of support. So business arising would be that recommending that a letter of support be sent to Honorable Catherine Conroy, Minister of Forest, Lands and Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development, in support of the Elphinstone Community Association requests that the Reed Road Forest District Lot 1313 be removed from the BC Timber Sales Timber Supply. As Council recalls the delegation, I think you actually saw it twice, and would anyone care to move that resolution? Councillor D'Andrade, thank you. Councillor Ladwig, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. I believe we have in the past written a letter of support for the residents up there, but this is more specific. Councillor D'Andrade.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, the approval of the regular council, there is an amendment that I believe, because it's on the regards the community amenity contribution. If we could go back, I would like to speak. I think there's a typo here.
Okay, which page are you on?
Page 3.
Okay.
So as far as I recall, when we discussed, it's item number 2, when
Yep.
we discussed to increase to 75% under section 4.1.4. And here it says increasing 50 to 75. I just want to be clear. We increased to 75. That's my understanding. Perhaps Councillor Lumley can confirm, because he's the one who introduced this, and I support it as well.
I think it's just a wording. I think it means increasing the 50% that was in the draft bylaw to the draft policy to 75% from 50%. So we could clarify that, corporate officer. I think that's what we're looking at. It's increasing the number from 50% to 75%.
But
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. That is what it's supposed to say. It's supposed to say that it will not be 50%. It will be increased from 50% to 75%.
That's correct. Councilor Diandra.
thank you, Mayor. It's just because even when we say from 50 to 75, it seems that we have a range. I think we must be very clear. So corporate officer, if you can specify that is now 75%, that's the agreement, because depends of the wording can be confusing.
Yes, thank you. You're right. It could be misinterpreted, so we will be sure to clarify that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good catch. Yeah. Okay, nothing further arising from the minutes. We'll go down to proclamations. This evening, we have two proclamations. The first one being Restorative Justice Week, and I invite Donna Shermer to come forward to speak to that. Donna,
Hello,
welcome.
everybody.
Welcome. Go ahead. Yeah, I understand you have a presentation.
I thought maybe you'd read the proclamation first and then I would speak, but I can speak first if you want me to do that.
No, I can do whatever works for you. So let me do that first.
Thank you.
Proclamation, the Office of the Mayor, William Beamish, in recognition of Restorative Justice Week 2021. Whereas in the face of crime or conflict, restorative justice offers a philosophy and approach that views these matters principally as harm done to people and relationships. And whereas restorative justice is a non-adversarial, non-retributive approach to justice that emphasizes healing in victims, accountability of offenders, and involvement of citizens in creating healthier, safer communities. And whereas this year's theme for Restorative Justice Week is Innovative Expressions of Restorative Justice, it is an opportunity to learn about restorative justice, educate, and celebrate along with other communities across the country during this week. Now, therefore, I, William Beamish, Mayor of Gibsons, do hereby proclaim the week of November 21 to 21 as a Restorative Justice Week, Restorative Justice Week. Proclamation 2021-06, November 16, 2021. Mayor Bill Beamish. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Beamish and Council. My name is Donna Schmerler, and I'm the current board president for the Restorative Justice Program of the Sunshine Coast. And with me this evening, I guess in the audience, is our Vice President, Sue Spurgeon. So thank you so much for allowing us to witness and hear that proclamation. We're joining you virtually from the unceded homelands of the Sechelt and Squamish peoples. The theme of this year's National Restorative Justice Week is Innovative Expressions of Restorative Justice. The last 19 months have been quite a time of stress, anxiety, and resilience and adaptability. These are our innovations. The Restorative Justice Program is a confidential in-person process, often a series of emotionally intense conversations, supporting people through a process of understanding the impacts of harm done and moving towards agreements and actions taken to heal the harm and repair damaged relationships. At the Restorative Justice Program, we had to find ways to do our work while adapting to COVID restrictions. So all board and committee meetings, as well as volunteer trainings, were moved online. This was a very steep learning curve for us, but even more challenging, our actual circle facilitations were also adapted to online, and when allowed, occasional outdoor meetings with social distancing. Nobody had been doing this pre-COVID. This was a big adaptation. We have been getting good outcomes so far, which I don't know if that's a surprise for me. It's not quite the same energy that you would get from a conversation where people are in the same room together, but still healing is happening. So I just wanted the town of Gibsons and mayor and council to know that we're ready, willing, and able to continue taking referrals from the RCMP, schools, and community groups. That COVID might have slowed us down a little bit, but that we're still at it doing our restorative justice work. The only other thing I wanted to say is that we have a new website, rjpsc.org. So that's the Restorative Justice Program of the Sunshine Coast.org, and that you can Google us for more information. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Donna. And Sue, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just that I too am very appreciative that we have been able to present this to the town of Gibsons and that you support us and that we are continuing to do the best that we can considering COVID times. Thank you very much.
Well, we thank both of you and your organization for all that you do for the people on the coast. Very important and very appreciated. Thank you. And
Thank you.
with that, we'll say goodbye to you, and we're going to bring forward the next delegation, but you're welcome to stay, please. Thank you. Okay, corporate officer. Oh, are we alone? Ooh. Don't leave us alone. Rebecca, did we lose you?
I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was muted. I was talking away to you and you couldn't hear me.
There you go.
Roger Lagasse was to be here today to accept the proclamation, and I'm wondering if there's someone else here on his behalf. If someone is here on his behalf, could they please put their hand up so I can move you over to speak? Or if Roger is here and there's a different name showing up, if he could please let me know by raising his hand, that would be great. If not, Mayor Beamish, you may wish to table this and we can always bring him back once he arrives.
We could we'd set that aside. I don't want to lose track of the proclamation, so
We could just lay it on the table until later in the day, if that's okay with you.
I would do that. Motion to table this.
Thank you.
Councilor Kroll, thank you. Councilor Gladwig, table till he arrives. We'll now go on to delegations. Our first delegation is Pam Robertson, the Gibsons Community Building Society. And council, you have material in your package about the society.
Pam should be joining you now.
Briefly, yes, there you are. Yes.
There I am. Thank you very
Welcome,
much,
Pam.
Mayor and Council. I'm Pam Robertson, and I chair the board of the Gibsons Community Building Society. We're thrilled to be a partner with the town of Gibsons in our project with the Gibsons Public Market and the Nicholas Sonteg Marine Education Center. Vicki Raw, who is joining me, will quickly take you through our presentation, and I'll be available for questions. So I'd like to welcome Vicki.
Vicki, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not sure, am I able to share my screen?
Yes, you can share your screen.
Thank you. I'm just going to get it. Let me see if I can make it a bit bigger here for you. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for allowing us to speak a little bit about what we've been doing this past year and just bring you up to speed on everything. So as you may be aware, the Gibsons Community Building Society is a nonprofit organization that operates the Gibsons Public Market and the Nicholas Sonteg Marine Education Center. Sorry, I'm just gonna go to sleep here. Our mission is to build a healthy and caring and thriving community. And we offer a vibrant community gathering space, a bustling local market, and an inspiring education Center. And the Nicholas Sonteg Marine Education Center, it was created to sustain a healthy coastal life by offering engaging educational programs, a collect and release aquarium, and community-centered conservation initiatives. And we're able to do this as a result of a strategic real estate partnership that includes, of course, the town of Gibsons, Community Futures, and the Sunshine Coast Foundation. And because of the generous support that we receive from our volunteers, donors, sponsors, and our granting organizations, we're able to do so many things. And of course, like you, we're very proud to be operating on the traditional territory of the Squamish Nation. And we're excited to be integrating their traditional knowledge into our facility, into our aquarium, and throughout the building. Of course, those of you that have been on the coast for a while recognize that we went from an abandoned yacht club to the beautiful building that now sits on the site. As I spoke to the partnership, we also align ourselves, our mission, with the Town of Gibson strategic plan. And you can see on the screen there the different ways that we do that. Sorry, my mouse is just moving. It takes an awful lot of volunteers to do everything that we do at the building, and we're so proud to have these people that come back year after year to support our programs. They support our boards, they look after our landscaping, they help us with facilities issues. They're just an amazing group of passionate, committed individuals. We're able to foster a healthier and more caring community through offering space for local organizations, such as you see up in the top corner there with Mayor Beamish and the group that provides us with the Black History Month at the market. And of course, we engage everybody with our events as well, events like our night markets, and we're so excited to be bringing those back in 2022. And of course, our fall market is happening, our winter market is happening in December. Oh, sorry, that just slipped right by everything. Again, where would we be without our dedicated volunteers? This is a couple, the Okas, who have been involved with the market for many years and continue to help us out both in the aquarium and of course, throughout the building. We also have great volunteers that share their skills and their passion for cooking by creating items that help us raise money, such as our tortilla sales, which will be coming up again this fall. And of course, we love it when music fills the building through our Saturday music program. Here's a picture of pulling strings. They're excited to be playing in our atrium now that we have our wonderful acoustics in place, helping make the sound even that much more pleasant. Our collect and release aquarium at the Nicholas Sonteg Marine Education Center, recently chosen as the community's second favorite location for children's entertainment, offers an opportunity for visitors to view and learn about the underwater inhabitants of Gibson House Sound. Our education and conservation programs inspire sustainable behavior for the health of our ocean and for our planet. And these are just some images of the community coming together to help us with our collect and release programs. And our education programs are offered to all of the kindergarten, grade 3, and grade 6 classes throughout the Sunshine Coast, District 46. And additionally, we hold the DFO contract to deliver the Stream to Sea program throughout the Sunshine Coast and in Powell River. This is our second year of holding that contract. And recently we launched an after-school marine science club for the girls to help nurture the interest in STEM fields. And we've seen that that's very popular and very quickly fills. So we're looking to offer it more often. We also like to educate the adults. And so our education speaker series is coming up. Our Ocean Optimism speaker series starts this Thursday evening. And adults and children can actually sign in and listen to inspirational speakers talk about different initiatives that are very optimistic about how we can make a difference. And of course, the children that come to our camps, we're inspiring a whole new generation of marine biologists through our kids camps. We launched this summer a new marine safari camp for the older children, where they got to do a little bit more experiential learning, where they got to travel to different places and learn about the shore life there. In addition, our partnerships with organizations such as the Pacific Salmon Foundation help support our hands-on conservation work. And this year, our partnership with Ocean Legacy Foundation allowed us to participate in a cross-Canada cleanup. And you can see here the team was very excited to be able to stand on top of that pile of garbage that they had pulled off of one of our shores. I believe in the end, they had almost 7 tons of garbage pulled from our shorelines. And of course, we look forward to delivering our year 3 report on the Healthy Harbor project while we're looking at the eelgrass beds of our local waters. And that's a great partnership with the town of Gibsons. Our art program, it showcases the work of local artists throughout our building and throughout the year. And it also earned us the honor of being recognized as the community's 3rd favorite art gallery. And of course, several of our public market merchants also received accolades through the People's Choice Awards, as did one of our pop-ups, the Smash Ghost Burgers. They received the honors of being the 2nd favorite burger. And we like the fact that as local entrepreneurs, they had the opportunity to showcase their product, learn from their customers, and really get their foot in the ground, in the door, so that they can build their business. And we look forward to having them back in the spring. Of course, our year wouldn't be complete without our signature fundraising event, so our Gala fundraiser and tribute. And although we've had to reimagine it the last couple of years due to the pandemic, we have just been amazed at the support that we've garnered. This year, we exceeded our goals for sponsorship and for attendance. When the building can only hold, 200 people or so, we managed to sell just over 265 tickets. And so it really spreads, and it's just a great way to connect, even if it's virtually.
Who's that guy with the salads there? Councillor Kroll.
Yes, I think that picture might be from last year. We appreciate his help. And of course, our Rockfish Art Festival and Auction. This was our 3rd annual this year, and it fills the building with so much color and joy, and it brings out the artist in everybody, in everyone. So we have children that decorate them. We have artists that are well established. We have individuals that have, painted a rockfish for the very first time in their lives, and they all have great stories to share with us. And this fundraiser supports all of the programs for the Nicholas Sonteg Marine Education Center. And of course, we're extremely grateful for all of the support that we receive, and we enjoy showing our donors up on our tree of giving, as well as on our waves of generosity. It's a way of acknowledging gifts that we've received throughout the year and cumulatively. And that is the end of my sharing. And certainly Pam and I can respond to any questions you may have.
Pam, do you have any closing comments you'd like to add, or?
No, just, how grateful we are for the support of the town of Gibsons to the work that we're doing in community. And we feel that we are making a difference, and each year it's a bigger difference in community. And we're very dedicated to keeping that happening to the benefit of everybody who visits us.
I'm so very pleased when I see those slides, Vicki, is that how well through our support and partnership with the market. We are actually achieving council's goals and the community goals through that way. And I think that's something we tend to forget because we only normally see the business at hand that we deal with on a weekly basis. And we forget, hey, we actually have a partnership out there that is continuing to work as well on the sustainable goals that we have established. So I really appreciate that. So Council, do you have any questions? Councillor Ladwig first, and then Councillor Kroll.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I wanted to thank you and congratulate you on all the work you guys have been doing. I really appreciated this presentation. I mean, I've received your presentations before, but it's so impressive to see the body of work that you're accomplishing growing every year. And this time it was really like, wow, you guys have really pulled off a lot. And so congratulations. It's amazing. You're really contributing to the community. So thank you.
Thanks, Valeria.
David, Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. I just wanted to sort of, it is a very collaborative relationship between the town and the market, and I just wanted to extend my sincere thanks to Georgie Good and the kitchen volunteer team from the market who've come out and helped us with the community dinners. They came out at Easter, and we did. We couldn't use the kitchen at the market because the Smash Burgers was using it, but we used the kitchen at the Legion, and we did, 18 trays of scalloped potatoes. And, it's just great when everyone gets together, and even to, taking that to our youth counselor, the Elphinstone students came out and helped serve the meals. So it's really nice when the community gets together for a common cause. So thank you for everything you do.
Thank
you. Councillor Deidre.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to congratulate you guys. I think, the last 2 years, we all know the challenges. We didn't know really what was coming, but it is amazing how, the success, we somehow you anticipate some big, maybe deep in the curve, but innovation, persistence, and community, and it's really nice to see it. And many of our organizations shows this strength as well, and so nothing will be impossible after that. Even the climate change. And thanks for bringing these wonderful speakers. I look forward to hearing Ruth again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Well, Pam and Vicky, great to see you both, and look forward to more of the same. And look forward to Gala next year. I've enjoyed every one I've participated in, and it's really been good. So thank you. And with that, we'll say good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I sent you an email, Pam, as well. So okay.
Great. Thanks. Good news.
Okay. Thank you. All right, take care, everybody. Good night. And our next delegation is going to be the Sunshine Coast Hospice Society. So we're
I've brought Tess Huntley over, and she should be joining you. And I see there was a hand up, but it looks like it went down now. So there's Tess.
Yeah, Katie.
Katie Clark. Okay,
I'll be joining as well. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for allowing us to present to you. I'm also pleased. I'm the Executive Director of the Sunshine Coast Hospice Society, quite new, just in the last 5 months. And I am accompanied by Katie Clogg, who's just chimed in, who is going to be doing a brief presentation for the Mayor and Council tonight. So thank you very much for your time.
welcome, both of you, and thank you for joining us. Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen.
Good.
Okay. You see the home slide?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us here today We do appreciate the opportunity and the time that you provided us this evening to present. My name is Katie Clogg, and I am the Philanthropy and Communications Manager at Sunshine Coast Hospice Society. The goal of our brief presentation here tonight is threefold. First of all, it's a bit of a refresher on the services that hospice offers on the coast. But in doing this refresher, our aim is also just to broaden the community's understanding of hospice as an essential service on the coast, but also to have a deeper understanding of how we fit into this context of end-of-life care across Canada. And while we are here to raise awareness, we are also here in hopes that the town of Gibsons, along with other local government, might consider partnering with hospice in providing some ongoing annual financial support. So hospice is the only charity on the region, on the Sunshine Coast, the lower Sunshine Coast, that is dedicated to providing end-of-life support services. So as you see on the screen, we have a variety of services, and I'd just like to provide a brief overview of those for you over the next few slides. So perhaps what hospice is most known for are the hospice suites themselves. So these suites actually have a history of their own and how they came to be. Back in 1999, a volunteer hospice steering committee was formed to advocate for hospice beds on the coast. And out of those successful advocacy efforts, in October of 2001, the first 2 hospice rooms officially opened, but they opened at Garden Inn in Gibsons, and they were operated by Vancouver Coastal Health. So in 2005, these rooms were moved to Shorncliffe, and they have been there ever since. So now we have the 2 hospice suites at Shorncliffe. We have an adjoining family room, and we have a beautiful garden outdoors that is maintained by both hospice volunteers and Rotary volunteers. So hospice has an agreement to support the comfort measures for these rooms, the decor and the design and any minor upgrades, but Vancouver Coastal Health provides the operating funds and the nurses. So one of the services that hospice offers through our volunteers, both in these suites, but also in people's homes or in the hospital, is Bedside Vigil. And thankfully, over the last couple months, we've actually been able to restart our Bedside Vigil services because we had to close those off during COVID. And it's been a relief for a lot of the nurses at the hospice suites that we've been back and providing those services. So our second physical space on the coast is actually Hospice House in Davis Bay. And there's a lot that's been happening at Hospice House, especially over the past year. So the Hospice House is what we might consider the program and the office hub that we rent from the District of Seashelf. It's just actually up the beach from Davis Bay. It's nestled in the woods. It's a beautiful location. And it's very much a place for anyone in our community to drop by if they feel that they need support. So that could be a client or a volunteer. On any given day, we could have a client drop by if they're having a particularly hard day, grieving the loss of their loved one. On another day, we might host a grief group that meets weekly in our living room, or we might have someone stopping by to check out a book from the Kate Webb Library. More recently, we've also launched a new drop-in wellness program called The Circle, and I will talk about that in a couple slides. But also of note, and you may have read about this recently in the paper, but our hospice has received a complete renovation over the past year. We've had new flooring, new kitchen, a new paint job, and essentially really like a reconfiguration of the design and usability of the space for our clients and our staff and our volunteers. And all of this was done at no cost to us. Thankfully, we had many donations from individuals and businesses, not just of their time, but of actual product. And we estimate that the value of this renovation was anywhere between $40,000 to $50,000 in free renovation value, which was really an incredible gift to our organization. So another aspect of our services is grief or bereavement support. And in the last 2 years, we've really seen an increase in requests for our grief services. This is definitely in keeping with the Canadian trend. According to the Canadian Grief Alliance, which is this coalition of national leaders in grief and bereavement, there's been a sharp increase in demand for grief services during COVID. So you can likely imagine, the ways in which COVID has changed the circumstances that surround grief. When you picture what a death looks like during COVID, it's actually quite devastating. At its worst, people were dying alone, and families were grieving alone, and people were physically distanced and could not get physical touch from family or friends that were outside of their bubble. Activities like funerals or other rituals that may have helped with grieving, they didn't happen, or they happened online or in very small groups. So, just to give you a sense of who our average client might have been during COVID, it was a wife who maybe lost her husband of 30 plus years during COVID and was in isolation in her home by herself without her support system. I mean, that was really, really hard. So that's just the reality of the people that we are supporting through our variety of bereavement care services. So that might be our grief groups, one-to-one support, Lights of Life, which happens in December, Lighting in the Memories. We have a grief support line that we have volunteers staff over the holidays. And then we also have a complicated grief counseling fund, which has been very heavily utilized during COVID, because complicated grief is a form of grief where the individual who has faced a death, it has just been so traumatizing or so, terrible that it's beyond the ability of our volunteers or our staff to be able to support that person. And so we refer them to the counselor. And if they are vulnerable or low income, we will supplement 4 or 5 counseling sessions through that grief counseling fund. And then they will join our other suite of services once they've reached a place of readiness where we can support them a bit better. Another aspect of our work is palliative support. So palliative support, by definition, is about providing the best quality of life for someone who is living with a serious illness, who is nearing death. So it really strives to relieve symptoms of pain, to provide comfort, to reduce stress and illness, and provide emotional support. And it's about, making sure this person has dignity and giving the opportunity for them to live a meaningful life. So we at Hospice consider ourselves as part of the circle of supportive care that supports the patient. So that circle of care might include the nurse or the family doctor, the friends. So this image that you see in the slide is actually really is an illustration of how we see the circle of care taking form in the community. So this is a package that's relatively new. It's called the Here For You Self-Care Package. And it's a new initiative that we developed for patients who are recently given a palliative diagnosis, just to remind them, that we are here for them. They are not alone. They can reach out and ask us for support, and we will provide it. But also there's components of it that emphasize the importance of self-care. There's a lavender eye mask and rejuvenating tea and a journal for them to write it, and some balm for their hands. So we've teamed up with the VCH home care palliative nurses who will hand out this package to their new patients, as part of their introduction to the patient of this new journey that they're about to face. This new palliative diagnosis is part of that package, part of that introduction to this new stage of life. So that partnership with the nurses is also what led to the development of the Circle Palliative Wellness Program at Hospice House. So this Circle is a weekly wellness workshop, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's an opportunity for people to meet others who are going through similar shared experience, but it's also a chance for them to participate in therapeutic activities like art therapy or music therapy, legacy projects, meditation, yoga, and things of that nature. So, and another thing that came out of this past year, we participated in a palliative working group as part of the Division of Family Practice, and that has produced a lot of productive outcomes. For example, we're presently doing an environmental scan of palliative services on the coast to identify where the gap areas are as we envision how our new home for hospice is going to look. So at the heart of all of our services is our volunteer program, which is really, the whole reason that hospice exists in the first place. It was founded by volunteers. And this photo was taken during our Zoom volunteer orientation, which took place earlier this year online because of COVID. It takes 30 plus hours to become an official hospice volunteer. It takes 30 plus hours of training. So it's not for the faint of heart. These people are very committed to the cause. It's really this tight-knit, caring community of people who just have huge hearts and love what they do. And we do have a dedicated part-time volunteer manager who provides monthly in-service opportunities and will help shape these meaningful volunteer experiences just to keep our volunteer community engaged and connected. And so the last aspect of our programming is our education and outreach. And this is like a program arm that was formed several years ago. And the goal of it is just to inform and educate the community around subjects related to end of life. And so this could have taken the form of an art event or maybe a public lecture. Right now, we are actually working on a documentary series about navigating palliative care services on the Sunshine Coast. The latest endeavor of this program is our Green Sleeve Advanced Care Planning Initiative. And advanced care planning is about identifying what your values and your wishes are for your future healthcare and communicating those wishes, not only with your loved ones so that they know what you want, but also with your family doctor and other healthcare professionals. So this Sunshine Coast Green Sleep Kit, which was created during COVID, it's a kit that facilitates an advanced care planning conversation. But it's also this critical tool for documentation that residents can use to fill out vital forms in case of an emergency or a decline in their health. So documents such as the MOST form or medical order scope of treatment form or the representation agreement. So we have been working on this project in collaboration with BC Emergency Health Services, Shishal Nation Home Care, and the Sunshine Coast Division of Family Practice. And they have all seen the benefits of what this green sleeve package can do, not just for patients or elders, but really particularly vulnerable populations on the coast who have an anticipated disease trajectory. This can help them to really communicate about how they envision their end of life or what their wishes are for their future care. So this, now that I've kind of provided an overview of services, it kind of brings us to this opportunity that we have here today, because we are very much in this growth period for our organization. We feel that we've developed this incredible suite of growing services, and we have on the horizon a capital campaign for a new home for hospice for more than 2 beds, more than 2 hospice beds for our aging population. We have so many needs, and yet the funding available just does not meet the need. So this may or may not come as a surprise to you, but there is in general, just in a broader sense, this gap for end-of-life care funding in Canada. Our hospice does not receive direct funding from any level of government or regional health authority. All of the work that we do is funded by grants or donations from the community. So unlike a social service charity, for example, which may get a variety of direct funding streams from the provincial or federal government to help vulnerable people, or unlike a hospital, which has its funding built into the infrastructure of the healthcare system or the local government, our hospice society and other hospice societies across Canada, are predominantly strictly funded through grants and community donations. So it's a bit of an irony, to be honest, which I don't think I'll ever completely understand, why something that's as inevitable as death, which is a shared experience amongst every Canadian, does not actually have a national or provincial strategy or a direct funding source available to it. So there are some funding that does go to provincial or federal hospice organizations, but there's no mechanism in place for that funding to trickle down and reach the smaller hospices in communities across Canada. So there's a lot of research to this end. I don't have to go into any of it for the purposes of this presentation, but I did want to bring your attention to one of the studies that supports this idea of fragmented end-of-life funding and sort of a fragmented end-of-life system. This paper was done by the C.D. Howe Institute, actually, just this October 2021, and called Expensive Endings, Reining in the High Cost of End-of-Life Care in Canada. And it's really a very compelling read. Some of the things that I observed from reading it are that Canadians spend more on end-of-life care than other high-income countries, and yet we achieve poorer results overall. Canadian healthcare budgets are siloed by sectors, so there's no kind of collective way to analyze how the funding is being distributed. And just it affirms the fact that funding for hospices predominantly comes from private fundraising. So I put this on the screen not really to have any intention, but to just communicate the current state of funding that we are currently receiving from local government, just to open it up for conversation. Because my intention with this presentation was to paint sort of this helpful picture of our current situation and to put it into perspective, the funding struggles that we're having right now, especially as we are looking to grow and we have this trajectory for growth. And we're really hopeful that local government might consider supporting hospice in a more sustainable, annual kind of direct way, so that we can continue to grow and expand and meet the needs of our communities. So thank you for your time tonight, and I will end it there and open it up to any questions that you may have.
Katie, thank you for your presentation. Very informative and very thorough. I appreciate that. Go to council. Council, do you have questions? Councilor Lumley.
Thanks for the presentation. I learned quite a lot from this presentation, believe it or not. Not that I don't learn anything from other presentations, but I guess hospice is kind of an outlier there. Like if you don't know anyone's using it, or you don't know anyone that's been involved with it, or had to use it or wanted to, you really don't hear much or even think about it. So I guess I'm quite amazed at the fact that here it's all grants and funding, and there's no provincial. Is this an anomaly for hospice in the province of BC or Canada? Like, are there other nations or places that actually that get more support from their tax base than just people volunteering constantly or and donating? That was my question. I'm just curious.
Who wants
You want to say to that? Yeah, I will. It really does differ, certainly from province to province. The funding structure is very different in provinces like Ontario, where it's much more integrated into the healthcare system. Certainly BC does not follow that model, which is really unfortunate, and it does leave small hospices, especially rural hospices that are not affiliated with large hospitals that have palliative care units, much more vulnerable, and yet we are all doing the same work. So in comparison, even within the same health region, there are, as I say, hospitals that have palliative centers that flow back and forth between the hospices that work with them. And we are much more isolated on the coast, but we're still running the same programs, the grief groups, the bereavement counseling, the one-to-one support, the end-of-life vigil, the day programs. So yeah, lots of disparity.
And thanks for that, by the way, for supporting it. Not just the explanation, but for the work. So I just thank you.
Other questions, councilors? Councilor Kroll? You're muted, David.
The classic line, I was muted. Okay, probably a good thing at times. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for what you do. Personally, we've offered space in our home for hospice beds on 2 occasions. And, it is an incredibly rewarding experience. I sat on the hospice board for a while, back in the days of K-Web. So it's going back a ways. And it is incredibly challenging. At a discussion earlier today, the issue of groups relying on funding and not knowing they've got money coming in to even get past tomorrow is a huge challenge. So, your message about funding did not go unnoticed. The other thing is we're dealing with a changing dynamic. You dealt a lot, Katie, with COVID, but the Sunshine Coast has one of the highest opioid crisis areas in the province. And you're dealing with the complexity of younger people dying. Like we're all getting old, and we come to terms with the reality of sooner or later we're going to be setting off on a spiritual voyage. But the fact that so many younger people are dying in such an untimely manner, and it so exacerbates the whole grief process, because parents are losing their children, which is not what's supposed to happen. And the challenges that you're faced with are just becoming exponential. So, and the fact we only have 2 beds. We have hospital beds being taken up by people who should be in hospice. And the cost of that is through the roof because you've got the wrong people tending patients where, you know, so I really appreciate the challenges you've been faced with. And I really, you know, you've laid, you know, as Councillor Lumley said, he learned a lot. And I think more people need to learn and appreciate the great work that you are doing. And, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Kroll. We're incredibly fortunate, as Katie said, to have the dedicated volunteers that we do, who have stuck with us through COVID and have been inventive and creative and finding different ways to serve people. So we're very lucky to have that. But as you mentioned, the opioid crisis, that is, of course, those are the families that have been coming to us. And when we talked about the complicated grief funding that we've had to source, it is for that reason, that one of the reasons that we've had to do that. But it would be amazing to be able to offer more support to our volunteers, to provide supports to those people rather than having to reach out outside our organization. So yeah, the stronger we can be, the more predictable our funding source, the more we can extend our services to what is needed right now on the coast.
Councillor Deidre.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I share the same thoughts of other councillors. Really appreciate the education. I'm curious. I understand that your service is not only for seniors, but it is a big part. And if there was some communication with the new Minister for Seniors from the federal government. And also I saw Tess, the last seniors planning table, I saw you there, but I wonder if this specific funding issue has been communicated with the seniors planning table, because they act actually as a advocate for seniors issue as well. So I'm just curious if you have approached the federal government, the new Minister of Seniors for this reason, and perhaps the seniors planning table can be a big support for that.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have not as yet. I mean, of course, our partnership with the seniors planning table is about being part of that circle of support for seniors on the coast. We are just an arm of that. And so we will explore all opportunities. We tend to do all of those things rather piecemeal, as we have to, finding as many sources as we can for our funding just to meet our budgetary requirements. So it's definitely one place that we can ask. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Councillor Ludwig.
Not a question, just a comment. I just wanted to thank you both for everything you do. It's such a deep and meaningful way to contribute to the community. And I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say I'm very grateful for the service that you're providing. So thank you. It's a very selfless way to give. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, no, I'll just reiterate that as well. Thank you both very much. And to all the volunteers you work with. I know you don't do it alone. You showed us a picture of many volunteers, and it is a service that we don't understand until we need it. And then we look for where does our help come from, and you're waiting there to help, and we really appreciate that. So thank you, and thank you very much, and maybe we'll see you again in the spring when we're dealing with funding issues. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, everybody.
All the best, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, Council, we'll go back to our agenda, and I want to see if the delegation for Louis Riel is here.
If anyone here is to speak to the Métis proclamation, if you could please raise your hand. I see no hand raised. I'm not sure what happened there, Mayor Beamish, but he doesn't appear to be in attendance.
I'm going to go ahead and make the proclamation.
Okay.
So this is an annual one. So there's a proclamation in the office of the Mayor William Beamish in recognition of Louis Riel Day. Whereas the Métis people and their descendants have significantly contributed to the exploration, growth, and development of Canada, and whereas the Métis people are recognized under Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982 as one of Canada's Aboriginal peoples, and whereas Louis Riel was a humanitarian and advocate for the Métis people and one of the Métis people's foremost historic leaders, we strove for justice and the rights of the Métis people as Manitoba joined Confederation. And whereas November 16 is an important and significant and symbolic date recognized by Métis people across British Columbia each year in commemoration of the death of Louis Riel on that day in 1885. And whereas the province of British Columbia honors Métis history and culture, Louis Riel's place in Canada history, and the province's valued relationship with the Métis people of the province of British Columbia. Now therefore, I, William Beamish, Mayor of Gibsons, do hereby proclaim November 16, 2021 as Louis Riel Day in the town of Gibsons. Signed, Mayor William Beamish. Thank you. And I believe, Rebecca, Mark, we have a flag that we normally fly during this period with the office. So I'm sure the staff would be able to take care of that and do that for the day. So thank you. Okay, we're at that part of the agenda right now where we go to inquiries and invite anybody to come forward with inquiries.
Mayor Beamish, right before I invite anyone to inquiries, I just wanted to let you know that the Métis flag was flown today.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. I didn't notice I was down there. Yeah, thank you.
If anyone has any comments to make to council about an item on the agenda, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised, Mayor Beamish.
Okay, thank you. We'll move forward with our agenda. 8.1 under committee reports, the Holland Land Cultural Corner Revitalization Select Committee. This has been received. Council, do you have any questions or comments, or does anybody wish to present it? No, sorry, Councilor Ladwick, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just say a few words briefly. Just so folks know, the Holland Lands Cultural Corner Select Committee met on October 20th to hold a workshop with Modus consultants. The purpose of the workshop was to bring all the tenants together that are occupying Holland Lands to hear about their needs, talk about their future vision, and then do a artist rendition exercise where they took all the information they heard and the consultants went through an exercise where they had 3 artists and each of them drew up a schematic of what we could do with the Holland Lands. I have to say it was amazing. It was really inspiring to see these artists in 1 hour. Like, they're truly artists. They sat there, they listened to everything we had to say, and then they came up with these really creative ideas and options for us to consider. Now, this was just a first cut. It was just a creative exercise. From there, they're going away. They're gonna think more about what they heard from the draft renditions they provided us, and then come back to us with a little bit more final, not final version, but a take 2 version. So they're gonna come to us in sometime here in November, and then we'll bring the committee together and review their next draft. So some of the concepts that they kicked around were things like possibly including some really creative stuff. And who knows where the funding would come from and whether or not it'd be possible, but maybe like moving some of the tenants around and using the SD46 building to have some housing on top of it as one option. And I think we talked about putting possibly the town hall in that building. Like, there's a whole bunch. They were just doing all these creative ideas, like how could we use this land? So it was a really interesting exercise. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. I see our CAO has he's lit up there, so he might want to contribute.
Mark, you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Beamish. Just to add on to what Councillor Ladwick had reported, we're as an update in consultation with the architect team, and they're hoping to have something back in draft form early next week. at which time Councillor Ladwick and myself will schedule another Hall and Lands Committee meeting. And then the next step after that would be to provide the committee's recommendations via the architects to actually do the presentation to council, hopefully sometime in December.
Good. Excellent. Councillor D'Andrade?
Thank you. So is the goal to present to council and then go to the community, or are we taking some feedback from the community between? I thought it would be interesting before, not a final design, but before it comes to council. Even the 3 renditions, right, to have some understanding how people feel about it. It goes back to what Councillor Ledwig was talking about, the STR bylaw. Instead of coming here and I don't know, it would be more, at least as a councillor, to have heard from, because the community has already some input, right? Then we hear from the community in a bigger scale, and then we can have a discussion. I don't know, and that will be, I think, instead of just delivering something, right? And then you have people reacting.
Hey, Councillor Ladwick?
Mayor, so the plan wasn't to have community input before it came to council, but maybe the CEO and I can talk about that. It's an interesting idea. We're on a bit of a tight timeline because I believe we're trying to sort of get to some kind of conceptual idea before Mark moves on in his assignment, just because he's kind of started this, and we're trying to see it through a little bit. But it's a good suggestion, and we'll talk about it and see if there's something we could do.
Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. Just, reading the report, I have to admit, I was madly looking for visuals. So, I can see where Councillor D'Andretti was coming from. And, we know how important the community feels about being engaged. So I think what might be a really nice idea is, even if it's just done with Elizabeth through Facebook and social media, that, here are the artist renderings of what came out of the initial meeting, how they've morphed into this. And it's not a fait accompli, it's a work in progress. At this point, all it is lines on a piece of paper. So people immediately assume when they see something in an agenda that it's fait accompli. And, that's a hard one to battle against. So I think, if we can, just put it out there, there's going to be reaction. Everyone's, it's going to be love, hate, but at least people, don't feel that it's a slam dunk before they were able to get the 2 cents in. So, I think it'd be just neat. I've been in some of these workshops where you've had the artists and they're doing the drawing, and it's exciting. You see something, evolving before your eyes. So being able to share that with the community and get some excitement behind what's happened so far, I think would be really valuable.
Yeah. I think the difference in this case is that we are the developer as opposed to council sitting considering a development. So when we put something out to the community, it is coming from the town. It is coming as a proposal. I think we want to, I'm not sure that we shouldn't have a look at it as a council before we say, there are some good ideas here that we like, and we prepared. There are some things that maybe as a council we don't support, and maybe we wouldn't want those to go out in that way, so that it's not like we're looking at a developer's proposal. So it's a different position to be in. We are the ones that, as a council, have to sit in judgment of the work, not be directed by the work sort of thing. So it's just one of those things that I'm good either way, but I don't know how you put it out and then come back and say, well, no, actually council hasn't seen this yet. So we appreciate all your thoughts, but we haven't actually sat down and talked about it. And that's a hard one. So Councillor Grohl.
Just in follow up to that, sir, what I'm suggesting is not necessarily that it, goes out before council sees it. What I'm saying is I think it would be valuable to share the evolution, how it got this far.
Yeah.
I think it's a community project. The more community you can get behind it, moving it forwards and fighting it is a huge plus.
Councilor Diandrat?
Yes, I agree. I was thinking exactly in these lines. I was thinking these renderings, which are not really complete. I think if we ask the community what aspects of each of the three the community resonates, enjoy, or no. So we are not talking about a single image. We are talking about three concepts that have some attributes. And I thought if we can hear, I think this would help the committee to develop the more finalized version that could be brought to council. Then we would have already understood what aspects of this project we have support. So.
Well, let's leave that to the committee. I'm sure they heard us, the chair of the committee's heard us, and Mark's heard us, and let them ponder on that, because the timing is all important on these things. So, but thank you for your report, a good and thorough report. Thank you. Okay, we have the next is the committee of the whole meeting of under 8.2.1, the minutes. We've received the minutes, so we'll go 8.3, and that's the Planning and Development Services Quarterly Report, and a recommendation from that today that up to $30,000 from the Affordable Housing Reserve Fund be borrowed to fund the short-term rental regulatory program, and the borrowed sum be paid back in 2022. I'm going to go Councilor Diandrat first.
It's just the 8.21 is the committee of the whole minutes be received, but there's also the same typo that there was on the regular. So if the corporate office could fix that too, that would be much appreciated.
Thank you. Okay, go back to that resolution. Would somebody care to move that resolution? Councilor Kroll, seconded by Councilor Lumley. Thank you. Any further discussion with council? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. None opposed? Thank you. Administration reports, Kirsten Defoe, planner, development variance permit for 824 and 840 Kiwanis Way. Kirsten, are you with us?
Sorry, Mayor, I'm here. I can present it on her behalf.
I suppose you could. Thank you.
So this is this is the Kiwanis Way development variance permit application. So there are two variances they're asking for, and it's to increase the height of the building. So one variance is to increase the height by 1.2 meters at 824 Kiwanis Way. So that would be from 12.2 meters, which is allowed in the public assembly zone, to 13.4 meters to allow the construction of a proposed addition to the existing seniors housing building. And the other variance is at 840 Kiwanis Way, and they're looking for a 15-meter height variance. So that would be, they're asking for a 2.8-meter addition in height to allow the construction of a brand new seniors housing building. So the new information in this report is the referral comments from BC Hydro, and they said they would need to get approval from BC Hydro to park in the right-of-way, which is under the transmission line. And the applicant has submitted the proposal, and BC Hydro is still reviewing that. And neighbor notifications went out on November 3rd, and 3 letters of support were received and 1 letter in opposition was received. And the letter in opposition was a late item added to the agenda. And their concerns, it was a neighbor that has concerns about the impact of the variance, and they consider it significant. And staff's comment to that would be that the impact on neighboring properties would be lesser than what could have been constructed if they did not get a variance. So if they spread out closer to the property lines instead of having a larger setback. So that's it. So it's over to you for deliberations and the decision and the opportunity to provide the public to be heard. And I think Kevin from Spaney Development is in the attendance if you have questions of the applicant.
Thank you very much. Before we do that, I will invite anybody who believes that they are affected by the proposed variance under development variant permit 2021-10 for 824 Quantus Way and development variance permit 2021-11 for 840 Quantus Way to make yourself known and make a presentation to council.
We have one hand raised, Mayor Beamish.
Thank you.
Sheila Kennier is joining you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm not sure where she went. Oh, don't know where she went. There she is.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, through the mayor, Director of Planning, did you say Kevin Holloway?
Yes, that he's representing Spaney Development.
I will bring him over as well.
Thank you.
I'm the person who wrote the negative or the unsupportive letter.
Welcome, Ms. Kenny.
This development is the other side of my fence. And it will have a very significant impact on my life, on my unit. Had the development been as it exists when I first saw my home 15 years ago, I would have taken one look out the living room window and left. I do not realistically expect that the very significant impact on my life is enough to stop this development. But I feel the need to get out there and say, this messes up my life. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Are you concerned about the height, Mrs. Kenya, or it's simply the building structure itself?
The existing building, when I first looked at this townhouse, it was a 3-story building surrounded by green space. I looked at it, I noted it, and I thought, okay, it won't have a major impact. A 4-story wall that close to my back deck will have an impact. As people walk into my living room, currently they say, oh, this is nice. And instead they'll say, ew, who wants to live looking out on a 4-story wall? Where I currently look at the green space under the hydro lines, and that green space was part of what drew me to this property. I will now be looking at a parking lot. The trees that shield the balconies of the current building from my living room and bedroom, those trees will be gone. This proposal is going to cost me in hard cash, whether it be selling and trying to move somewhere else And with this proposal in place, my unit will not draw as much money. I'm not a real estate agent. I don't know how much the impact will be, but it will be an impact. It will cost me in trying to landscape around this 4-foot wall that will block the winter sun from my deck. This proposal impacts me, and it is significant.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Council have any other questions? Okay, seeing none. So thank you very much for your presentation. I think we hear and understand what your concerns are. Thank you. I'll go back to the Director of Planning. Do we have a landscape plan for this project?
We do not have a landscape plan for this project. This is, at this point, it's just a variance application. Did we lose the mayor?
Yes.
I'm not sure what happened there, but we'll watch for him to come back. I don't know where he went.
Oh, it looks like he's in the attendees list.
Okay, I will move him back over. Mayor Beamish?
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm just for some reason I was kicked out.
We don't know what happened there.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I see hands up. Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig, Councillor Kroll first.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. I was looking for a site plan just to find out what the setback is from the Sheila Kenier's property.
I will have to look at the site plan and get back to you on that. I'll look at it right now.
Yeah. Councillor Ladwig and.
Yeah, just with regard to Sheila's comments about looking onto a parking lot, I was just wondering if there's anything we can do to help shield that experience for her, like perhaps leave a row of trees between her and the parking lot or something like that.
That's why I suggest the landscape plan should maybe address that issue. Yeah. and cover that off. I'm looking at the proposed site plan, and the parking lot is actually quite a ways over from the building, and it's certainly to the south of everything. So, and that's on page 3 of the site plan, proposed site plan. But it certainly will be a different structure closer to the property line, not as close as they say to the property line if a variance wasn't requested, because the property they could build closer within the setback. They spread the project out more. So, council, what do you want to do? Hey, one thing I was thinking when I heard the presentation from the Director of Planning was, is this decision moot if BC Hydro comes back and says no to the parking under the power lines? Do we have to go back to the drawing board? And in which case, should we be proceeding at this time until we know that answer? Councilor Dindrat?
I agree, Mayor. I think it's in this case, in particular case, I would like to wait because that could change everything. And also I would like to better understand, because obviously I'm fully supportive of this project, but it's a hard decision, right? When you're asking a variance and you are putting, you're creating such an impact. I have not seen, I would like to understand the renderings. I don't have the address. I don't know exactly, looking at the map, where her house is. So I would like that we don't make a decision right now, that we wait for Hydro, and perhaps if there's some consideration that could be done in the meantime to perhaps to, you know, to release the impacts, to diminish the impact. I would appreciate that. And then with more description and understanding of what the impacts will be, I will be more comfortable to make a decision.
Is that a motion to table to a future meeting?
Yes, please.
I'm going to go to Director Stats.
Thank you, Mayor. I just noticed that Kevin has his hand up and he might be able to provide some more information about the BC Hydro right-of-way. There is the previous staff report that was presented. It presented the property. I can show you some maps if you want to refresh your memories about the property and where the BC Hydro right-of-way is and the site plan and all that as well.
Okay, Kevin, Rebecca, you want to bring Kevin forward?
Yes, I've sent him a message asking him to unmute. There he is.
Hello, I'm sorry, I've been having some trouble hearing and whatever, but the BC Hydro, oh, sorry. You want video? Okay,
Yeah,
here we go.
Okay, yeah.
So the BC Hydro, I've talked to 3 or 4 different people in there. We have the engineer, Merrick, who's the engineer for the electrical engineer for the project. Em and I have talked to, along with Peter Hydro. They've came back very positive. They actually like the way that the design is. The parking lot is perpendicular to the power lines. I don't see there being an issue from what we've got back. Leslie Ann, I'm not sure. Did I send you that letter that we got back from Hydro, or?
We did receive one letter. It just said that, I think it just said that they were in communications with you, but it didn't provide a definitive response as to whether it's approved. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, and that's the problem with Hydro. Like, it's probably going to take, we would have to send design drawings to them for them to give us like a final decision that yes, this is a, you know, we can approve this or whatever. It's not anything out of the ordinary. We built like storage units in Seashell under power lines, like run it right underneath the power lines. Like I think it's 98 in total behind Cap College there. So it's not anything that hasn't been done before. The building is, by my estimation, both buildings in both directions are about 30 feet away from the power line. So it's basically just the actual parking itself. And like I said, like we've got positive feedback. Merrick, the engineers, feels really good about it. So I don't think it's going to be an issue. It's not like we're actually building there. We do have to the garbage containers, recycling, that kind of thing cannot be underneath it. So as of to date, we haven't had any negative feedback from them. And the issue with the tree line, or the landscaping on that side, the plan would be like to do some kind of nice tree shrubbery, like whatever, but that would be up to the town of Gibson to decide. We could propose it, but it's something that we're like totally willing to do. The parking lot would obviously come out, and there would be actually more greenery there than there is right now.
Thank you. Director Plan, do you have anything to add?
No, I can show a site plan if that would be helpful. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So just to go back, this is the 2 properties. So 824 Kiwanis Way and 840 Kiwanis Way. So it's just off of North Road, which is right here. Here it shows it's in the public assembly zone. This map here shows the BC Hydro right-of-way. And this here shows the site plan. I can get it to large. So this shows the parking spaces that will be under the BC Hydro right-of-way are right here. And some in here.
Okay. So the parcel that is to the north of the straight line there that Mrs. Kinnear is with. That's right. Yeah, in there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And that area right now where the building sits, where the blue, the new build is proposed, is currently parking, is it not?
I believe it is. Let's see if we can see it. Oops, sorry. Yeah, right now it's a parking lot and it's pretty vacant. So they're going to be building an addition right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Councilor Kroll.
Oops. To my earlier question, what is the distance between the edge of the building and the property line? Because it's hard to see a scale on this drawing.
It is. Sorry, I'm just going to escape out of here. See if I can pull that up in the agenda.
I don't know if there's a drawing that actually, can't remember, Leslie Ann, if there's a drawing that actually shows that dimension. I thought there was.
Oh, there is a scale just under the north, but I can't make it out. So based on that, it looks like what the scale's what, 100 watt.
Sorry, I've got to look at the scale and open it that way.
Mayor Beamish.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. I'm looking in the report myself, trying to pick out the setbacks. So yeah,
I'm just curious. I mean, I guess we're going down this rabbit hole for you know, as much as I can appreciate her dilemma. This is clearly much needed housing that you know, it desperately need. If anything, it's not like the project can't be done or won't be done, hopefully. But I mean, if council wants to, let's just make every means possible to lessen the impact of those that might have that impact. I mean, unfortunately, towns grow and cities grow and people lose sights of things and visuals. And I mean, there's really nothing guaranteed in life anymore as far as building and construction. But I mean, all we can do is I mean, we could like pledge to ensure that the impact is lessened and is not as maybe as gross as that she might be anticipating. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's all I would suggest. I mean, we could sit here all night, I guess, and look at property lines and parking and stuff. But I mean, I think we're just losing sight of the big picture, I guess, in a way. I mean, she's right. There's nothing going to be done. The project's going to go ahead. So that would be my 2 cents.
Councillor Ludwig.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with Councillor Lumley. Like, I do sympathize with Sheila. I really do. But as Councillor Lumley said, we all know this housing is really needed. I would, I don't know if I'd want to put a motion out saying that something along the effects that I would like to see extensive mature planting between the building and Sheila's property, and I believe it looks like there's one other house there as well, but I would really want to see an extensive, mature landscaping plan between the building and those residential houses.
I think we could add that to the resolution if you wish to do that. Yeah. Councilor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. Just further, just caution the extensive planting, because the one thing you don't want to do is impact on shading. And if you plant trees, we just had an incident in the community where someone planted 6-foot trees 40 years ago. And, they became a major shading factor. They're now gone, but it is, trees do grow and they do have an impact. So I think, my concern would be is, if the variance doesn't go through, the footprint of the building is going to get bigger to accommodate it, which is going to have a greater impact on shading because you're going to have a wider area doing the shading. So, it's, I appreciate the concerns of the resident adjacent to this complex, but it's, it's desperately needed housing, and it's a housing need area that is critical. It's for seniors who need assisted living. And right now we've got, 30 people sitting in hospital hallways who should be in that building and aren't.
Councilor Deandrade, and then we're going to have to move on.
Yeah, maybe Michelle, I don't disagree with all the points. I think we received a letter at the last moment, and it's hard for me to visualize. I would have appreciated if we had, even though the Director of Planning showed the planning, I don't know where the property is. I cannot understand. So I don't feel comfortable making decisions without understanding. That's my point. And I don't disagree. Is housing needed? It's most likely this is going to go anyways, but it's just like I don't know. I just heard from the residents from some impact that I don't really have the visuals. I cannot picture. So is it mandatory that we have to make a decision today? Can council have time to understand? This is a last minute. I haven't seen this letter. This letter just showed up right now on my.
Director of Planning.
Thank you, Mayor. So I can share an image from the presentation that was provided to council or to the committee 2 weeks ago. So can you see this image right now? Yeah. So this shows what the building, the impacts of the height. So the setback, the building setback is actually 6 meters from this property line, and they're building it at 16.8 meters. So they're building it out here. So if they didn't get that height variance, they would probably have to spread out to the property line. And right now, the existing building is quite far in. As you know, they're building over the parking lot. So this shows the impacts to the height. So you might remember this. So that's one piece. The other piece is because it's a variance, we did have to notify neighbors. There is a legislative process that we need to follow. So if council does not want to make a decision tonight, you would have to determine the date you'd make a decision, and we would have to put out notification letters again for the date of council's decision and let people comment on it up to the date of the decision. So that's why you got comments up to the last minute, because anybody has an opportunity to provide a comment, and then we provide them to council. So we appended those as a late item to the agenda. The alternative would be for me to share my screen and read it out to you. So that was just our process.
Councilor Ludwig, I saw your hand.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could ask the Director of Planning, could you tell me what's going to go in that space between the property line and the building? Is that parking? Is it going to be parking or landscape? What is that going to be?
So it looks like this. So this is the rendering is from this area right here. So it looks like a trail, like a pathway around the building, and probably some landscaping. But Kevin, do you know exactly what's going to be going in here?
Yeah, so that's just a sidewalk, like around where you were, yeah, right there, Leslie Ann, yeah, all the way around there. That's sidewalk, and then to the north property line between the sidewalk. So that's going to be green space. So that is, we have a landscape architect, on for the design. So that's basically going to be designed in conjunction with the town of Gibsons, whatever landscaping you want there, whether it's trees, grass, shrubs, however, like we normally do when we do these projects, we get feedback from the town. We submit the drawings, we get feedback from the town during building process, permit process, and yeah, we can put whatever kind of green space you want there.
Perfect. That's great. That's quite a bit of green space, and so that makes me more comfortable. Thank you.
Council, what's your wishes? Do I see a resolution coming here, or are we, Councilor Lumley?
Yeah, I'd like to move it, if I could, that council approves the request. But I think we should also add in that council, obviously we're going to have to approve everything later, aren't we? Anyway, obviously we're going to have to approve the landscape plan, right?
Through you, Director.
Under the public assembly zone, there is an exemption for form and character. So this architect has worked with our form and character guidelines a lot and has tried to meet them, but there is no form and character development permit. So for this variance, council could ask for specific landscaping additions in that area. If you're looking for landscape screening, you could ask for that, or if you want low shrubbery for the lighting.
How about if we do this? How about if we do this at the? I believe that the neighboring property is actually part of a condominium development in there. I think they're self-owned, but within a condo. How about we ask that the developer work with the neighboring property to plan the landscape plan, the buffer, so that there is some agreement.
Lower the impact.
Yeah, so there is some agreement in there, so they.
Okay. Yeah, something like that.
Not 20-foot trees. So, and that council requests the developer work with the neighboring property owners to plan a suitable landscaping plan to lower the impact of the building. Okay. Moved. Seconded by. I'll take Councillor Kroll, both fighting for it. And that's all three of that's the approval of the variance for 824, approval of variance for 840, and requested to work out with the neighboring property owners. Okay, thank you. Councillor Kroll, you had something else to add to that, or?
Well, I think it's just significant to note that without the variance, the building, without even coming to council, could have been built to the property lines.
Yeah.
Or to minimal setback. So, it would, rather than being a 3-story building, it would be a 2-story building right to the property line, which I think would have a far greater, and I do appreciate now from when Kirsten in her presentation did the diagram with the, with the sightline impacts.
Remember that diagram too. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Did we vote? All in favor?
No.
All in favor? Any opposed? In favor, Councilor, or opposed? You were slow. I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know.
Oh, you said, Mayor, you said all in favor. I lift my hand.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, that's approved then. So we'll go on now to the next item on the agenda. Is the 9.2, and this is a letter drafted by the BC Pulp and Paper Coalition requesting it be signed by myself as mayor, and thought that rather than take that initiative, I'd bring that to council and see if council has any concerns with my signature representing the town of Gibson on that letter. Does somebody want to make a motion that sign the letter, authorize the mayor to sign the letter? Council Crowell, is that what you're doing? Moving that, okay. Second by Councilor Ladwig. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. I think this also recognizes that, you know, as much as the forestry industry has a lot of concern about it, this particular pulp and paper plant is the largest employee on the Sunshine Coast, and we have to recognize that as well. People have said all the burned trees, there's all this fiber. Burned trees can't go into pulp and paper. That's a problem because they can't take one bit of that black stuff. And so that forest fires don't contribute to pulp and paper. They can be cut, they can be harvested, but not for pulp and paper after the fact. Okay, we'll go to the AVICC recommendation that the proposal we submitted to AVICC for a session on watershed governance during the 2022 convention. This was an idea of they were asking for convention ideas for presentations. This is one, of course, that's been top of mind for the town of Gibsons for several years. But I don't know if there are other presentations or proposals you'd like to see that we'd like staff to put forward. Councillor Kroll.
I'm certainly in support of this. I think, you know, it's an area that covers so many facets and so many ministries within the government that it's important that, you know, that it be brought to the table. So, you know, it's what, 2016, the town petitioned.
2014.
Yeah. 14. So, you know, it's been dragging on far too long. So I think, you know, if it's the only issue we bring to the table, I think it's a critical one, and it impacts on so many other things. It, you know, gets into block 1313 and all sorts of other stuff. You know, I think all you have to do is look around us and what's happened over this past weekend and look at the photographs that are being shared left, right, and center of washouts in our own community. Which ultimately could, you know, impact on what comes out of our taps. So I think this is a critical issue to be dealt with.
Yeah. You move that, seconded by Councilor D'Andrade. Any further discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. And thank you, staff, for putting that together. Rebecca, I appreciate that. And move on then to council reports. I'm going to give Evie a chance to go first because we forgot her last time, right to the end. I don't know, Evie, if you have anything, but I don't want to get down to adjournment and then be reminded that you're here. So I think you're muted.
Ms. Bailey said that their applicants applied today?
Yes, we will be considering it tonight, yes.
And so that's something you guys go over individually?
It is, yes, it is. Yeah. All right, thank you. I'll go next. Just want to thank Council Kroll for coming out to Remembrance Day. It was a very nice ceremony in Gibsons. Councilor Kroll placed a wreath for the regional district. I placed the one for the town. It was a good ceremony, but much more subdued and much smaller ceremony than we've seen in the past. And that's again related to COVID and the weather, I think so. We also like to express appreciation for the infrastructure services team of the town for the work that they've done to both plan for and then monitor the recent storm event that resulted in very little damage in the town of Gibsons, but important that they were prepared for that, and we really appreciate that. The Public Art Committee will meet next week on November 25 in the evening at 7 o'clock at the Art Gallery, if anybody's interested in coming and observing. One thing I'd like to put on the agenda for future meeting, perhaps a committee report. And I'd like to maybe actually for the meeting in December is to reestablish a policing committee to work now with the RCMP and the ministry and the town relative to the transition that is likely to take place as we emerge into being a 5,000 plus population community. I think that we can't do too much pre-planning for those things. And we're already having a conversation with the RCMP. There's a letter on the agenda package tonight. But I would like to give some thought. We did have a committee established in 2019 that looked at policing costs, whether those same members would be the appropriate members to put on a committee going forward because of their familiarity with the issue for us, or whether we want to put a call out for new members. But I'd like to put this on an agenda, perhaps even a committee agenda for the next council meeting day. And perhaps, Mark, if you could look at some terms of reference based upon your experience with Parksville Qualicum, take a look at some terms of reference from communities that have gone through and see how we would work with a committee on this issue. So if we could bring that forward, please. So today I met with SCRD and District of Seashelt on early childhood education, meeting with the ministry and with the college, looking at opportunities there. Seashelt wants to actually establish develop a daycare facility, and the college is responsible for delivering programs for daycare training. So that's why that conversation was held. So we are supporting a letter of that later tonight. So that's all I have. Noting the time, does anybody else have anything else to add? Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. Just very quickly, the Legion event, as you said, it was very somber. I think there were like 3 or 4 veterans who were actually out there. So it's really notable. The veterans were losing. I attended a BC Hydro webinar on clean future powered by water. Some of the concerns I brought up in the discussion groups was the reliability of hydro with respect to climate change and, down power lines. How many people just this weekend were without power? What are they doing to sort of improve things from that aspect? The Sunshine Coast Housing Action Table met on Monday. There's a subcommittee with that called Rental Incentives Working Group, which I managed to find myself on that committee. And we're looking for means to incentivize landlords to consider long-term rental. So anyone who has any bright ideas, I'm all ears. I also attended a seminar done by the Republic landfill in Washington State. They're the landfill that the Powell River is currently sending their garbage to. And I know the regional district has been chatting with them with respect to what happens if our landfill reaches capacity before we have an alternate site. It was an interesting presentation. They have, what appears to be a great facility. I just shudder looking at the carbon footprint of getting garbage to Washington State. And they've only got, I think they said a 40-year capacity. And they have nowhere to expand because they're between 2 rivers. So interesting challenges ahead. And I'll leave it at that for now.
One other note, Council, I sent you out today kind of an update from the watershed workshop. And the interesting part of that is the back end of that was the idea of forming a committee to continue to work on this issue. And we've already had response from 2 different people suggesting that they'd like to be part of that process. And that includes Fiona Beatty responded saying that whatever help she can get, she'd love to be part of a committee going forward, so that it could be something there. So Any other reports, council? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to move on to correspondence. We have correspondence for the week ending November 1 and November 8. Motion to receive those. Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig, all in favor? Thank you. Noting they were already received earlier on, but that's okay. Anything arising from those correspondence? Councillor Ladwig first.
Yeah, there's a letter in the week of, what week is it? The November 8th package about the Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society Gibson's projects. I'm sort of just seeking council's thoughts on it. I believe there's a number of errors mistakenly put in there, and I'm wondering whether or not we want to bother sending a response and correcting some of the errors, or do we just let it go? And
I think it's important where we have the opportunity and we identify those is to correct them. I think that otherwise they sit as part of the record and uncorrected is ignored, and I think we should do that.
okay, I'd be willing to work with staff on that response. I couldn't lead it, just I'm feeling a little maxed at the moment, but I'm willing to assist staff with that.
Good. Okay. Thank you for that.
I'm just, so
I'll leave you to work with Rebecca on a response to that. So thank you. Councillor Kroll.
I'm just wondering, should the Affordable Housing Society, should they be the ones correcting it?
Well, the letter was written to us.
Yeah.
Point
taken.
Is our liaison. So, but I'm sure she can work with them and staff on that.
But I agree that the correction should be.
Thank you.
For the record.
Yeah. Councillor Kroll.
Just I wanted to address the letter from Joseph from the GLHA with respect to the letter that was sent to the town with respect to their Wi-Fi. I just wanted to report that TELUS have put in a designated Wi-Fi fiber optic cable from in front of the Gibson's Key building, right down Gower Point Road, right down the full length of the government wharf. And it's been activated, and the Gibson's Landing Harbor Authority are just setting up their special account with TELUS. And it should provide decent Wi-Fi to the marine community and also support the Gibson's Yacht Club with their weather cam.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you for your work on that, Councillor Kroll.
It was one simple letter.
Yeah.
And, you know, kudos to TELUS. The TELUS team really bent over backwards to make it happen. So.
Okay, we'll carry on. Councillor Dean.
Thank you. There has been letters about cat bylaw. Actually, lately we received at least 3 letters, and I think that's really important to address. I'll talk to you, Mayor Beamish. Hopefully we'll bring this next meeting, because the town of Gibsons now is part of the Biosphere Reserve, the UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, which one of the main goals is to conserve biodiversity. And we know, there's no doubt that cats impact birds. They eat birds, they kill birds. Well, they kill birds mostly. And then there's even the other issue with cats that is about toxoplasmosis. It was interesting because I believe it was last Sunday, there was a program on CBC talking about exactly this, how cats, if you keep your cat at home, there's basically no risk that the cat gets contaminated. But if they get a rat that is contaminated, and there's even some interesting that happens when the rats have toxoplasmosis.
Could we hold the description until it actually comes onto our agenda then? We can.
We're at 9 o'clock. But I was just, anyways,
so.
Okay. I was just very pleased.
Perhaps if you want to work with Rebecca and put a notice of motion forward for what you want to see, and that would be the way to do that. Thank you. Okay, we have the for receipt. We've already received these. So the The letter from the Dwayne McDonald, RCMP, being received. The letter from Rhonda Muse, Secretary General Commissioner UNESCO, has been received. And and the letter from Carrie Ann Polson for District of Seychelles has been received. The resolution there is asking that the town ratify their decision to provide a letter of support for the District of Seychelles Childcare BC New Spaces Fund application. Are there any of those letters besides that resolution the council wants to bring forward? Okay, would someone like to make a motion that council ratify the decision to provide a letter? This was because we did it as a poll on an internet poll. So we agreed that we would do it. There was a quorum, and now we need to officially ratify that decision. So, Councillor Kroll, move that. I'll second it because I was one who agreed on the poll. And any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Seeing none, okay. Letter from Mayor Seegers has been received. Sasha Prin, UBC, has been received. And Tara Benaglio, Assistant Deputy Minister, Province of British Columbia, being received. Now, the one from Sasha Prin, that's a notification that we received a grant of $15,000, planning grant. And so that was a good news story for us today, getting notification of that. And so that that's a project that go forward. The other one from Tara Baganelio, I think council should read that carefully. There's a lot in that letter. One of the things it arises from that I've discussed with our corporate officers, the need to amend our procedures bylaw relative to Zoom meetings and things of this nature. So we need to do that and going forward. So you'll see that hopefully before the end of the year. But there might be other, but there's a lot of other things in terms of questioning whether or not we want to have all of our staff required to be double vaccinated, how we're going to run our meetings. It's I think there were 6 pages of that letter. So I don't think we have time to go through it now, but there are some interesting points in there. So perhaps we'll bring that back, some of those points, to the next meeting. Is there anything of those correspondence that council wants to speak to right now? Okay, before we go to bylaws, I'd like to council resolution to extend the meeting. And we've got the bylaws to do, we've got inquiries, and then we have a closed session. So I'm going to suggest 10:45 or 9:45, well, 10:45 if you want to, only if you want to. Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig, okay. All in favor of extending from 9:45? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll just charge right through then. It's too bad we didn't get to discuss some of that stuff, but I think there's some important information in there that will, especially the 11.7 letter that you got to look at. Okay, bylaws. Director of Finance for the 2022 anticipation bylaw. We received this. Director of Finance, do you want to bring this forward? This is for first, second, and third reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a bylaw that I bring to council annually at this time, and it provides the town with the ability to access short-term borrowing in advance of our annual tax collection in July. And so last year's bylaw was approved to set the authorization to $3.5 million. And this was to enable the town to be in a position to respond to circumstances that might evolve as the result of the COVID pandemic. And the purpose of this report is to recommend that the limit remain at 3.5 million. And so although we're slowly coming out of the COVID crisis, municipalities are more frequently experiencing economic challenges resulting from extreme climatic events such as flooding, storm surges and forest fires. And we've seen pretty astounding examples of this last couple of days in several municipalities near us. We're very fortunate that we weren't affected as others were. So the increased authorization would enable the town to respond to any circumstances if we were finding ourselves in that situation. It's important to note that the town is not required to borrow these funds, nor would we if we didn't need to. But it is prudent to have this measure in place in case one of these dramatic events did affect us and we were in a cash crunch moment. And so the maximum amount of short-term debt that we can incur under this provision in the charter is just over 3.9 million. And this bylaw provides authorization up to 3.5, which is below the maximum limit allowed. And this is a bylaw that is short-term in nature, so it expires every year, which is why I bring it back to council every year for approval. And because of that, the traditional electoral approval process is not required. And so, as I've mentioned to you in the past, you're probably quite familiar that the probability of the town needing to access this maximum borrowing is very low. Interest is only charged on amounts the town borrows and not regarding the amount authorized. And if we don't access any borrowing under this provision, there's no fees or charges that are incurred. So at this point, I'm bringing it forward to council to request first, second, and third reading, and for the amount of $3.5 million. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for being proactive in terms of what we can and maybe need to do at some point in the future, given the curious state of the climate these days. So I appreciate that. So council, what's your wish? Does somebody care to move first, second, third reading? Councilor Kroll, second by Councilor Diandrad. Any further discussion, council? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. And thank you again, Director.
Thank you.
The next one is the zoning amendment bylaw number 106562 2021. This is for 834 Park Road. This is for adoption. Does somebody care to move adoption of that bylaw? Councilor Kroll, Councilor Ladwig. Further discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? You want that recorded, Councilor Diandrad?
Yes, and I just want to, if I may disclose, the only reason it's opposed is because it's increased density. And right now, I'm not too comfortable until I understand our water situation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no unfinished business, no new business, notice of motions, none. Inquiries. Who's with us that wants to ask a question?
Anyone has a question to ask council, please raise your hand. Hands are raised, Mayor Beamish.
No hands are raised?
No hands are raised.
Then we'll have a motion to close the meeting. This is a motion to close in accordance with section 91A, E, and K of the community charter. Personal information, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land, and negotiations and related discussions, the provision of a municipal service. Did somebody make that motion? Councilor Kroll, Councilor Ladwig, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. And to our audience and staff, thank you very much for being with us tonight and being patient with us. There's always lots to discuss, and I wish we had time to be more in depth on some things, but we will bring things back as we need to. So thank you. And if you want to stick around for another 45 minutes, we will reopen to close again. Okay. Thank you very much. And council, take 5 minutes and we'll go off of YouTube, please.